The void of space trembled as the HSS Vindicator emerged from hyperspace. A behemoth of steel and defiance. Its presence alone sent ripples through the sensor arrays of Zeldar Prime. The Dominion's capital world had never witnessed a human warship of this magnitude. Automated defense systems flagged it as an anomaly, an impossibility. Humans were merchants, miners, explorers, not conquerors, not warriors. Yet here it was. Within seconds, Dominion command relays activated. Fleet Marshal Zyvarek of the Zelthari Dominion observed the warship's readings from his control chamber. His 6 luminous eyes narrowed as he studied the vessel's design: primitive plating, aggressive thruster arrays, ballistic weapon signatures. Crude, unrefined, and yet different. He dismissed his unease. It was a single ship, against an empire. A transmission flared across the Dominion's encrypted channels. "This is Captain Elias Mercer of the HSS Vindicator. You have exactly 1 standard cycle to release the 500 human colonists held on Zeldar Prime. Failure to comply will be met with force." The demand was met with silence. Then laughter. Zyvarek leaned back, mandibles clicking in amusement. "Humans," he mused. "So dramatic." He gestured to his command staff, signaling them to prepare planetary defenses. Plasma batteries, orbital sentries, interceptors, all were brought online. Zyvarek had no intention of negotiating with primitives. "Open a channel," he commanded. His voice echoed with condescension. "Captain Mercer, you have made an error. Your kind is tolerated in our space out of generosity. Do not mistake it for weakness. Your ship will be dismantled, and your crew will be processed accordingly. Surrender, and I may show mercy." Silence from the warship. Zyvarek smirked. Then, without warning, Dominion command centers flickered. Power grids surged, screens distorted. The room dimmed, systems struggling to correct themselves. Then came the voice. "Calm, controlled. You assume we came unprepared." A pulse swept through the orbital network, and Dominion ships blinked out of formation. Engines faltered, weapons locked. Panic spread through the fleet as ships veered off course, thrusters firing uncontrollably. Zyvarek's amusement turned to confusion, then anger. "Impossible," he hissed. "What have they done?" His chief technician stumbled forward, voice trembling. "Fleet Marshal, the human vessel has severed our quantum command relays. They're disrupting our fleet-wide coordination." Zyvarek bared his fangs. "Counteract it." The technician paled. "We can't." Above the capital world, the Vindicator loomed, unaffected, untouched. Its outdated design had fooled the Dominion. While the Zelthari relied on neural-linked command structures and synchronized targeting, the humans had done the unthinkable. They had adapted, developed countermeasures, turned the Dominion's greatest strength into a vulnerability. Elias Mercer watched from his command chair, fingers steepled. He had studied their technology, their doctrine, their reliance on centralized AI. He had spent years ensuring humanity would never be at their mercy again. This wasn't bravado. This was a calculated response. The Dominion had taken humans as slaves. Now they would pay for it. Zyvarek's fury boiled over. Destroy them. All forces opened fire. Across the orbital rings, plasma lances ignited, cutting through the void in brilliant streaks of violet. Swarms of Dominion fighters accelerated, seeking to overwhelm the lone vessel with sheer numbers. Elias exhaled. Then, with a quiet nod, he spoke. "Return fire." The Vindicator responded with terrifying precision. Its kinetic railguns roared, launching solid tungsten rounds at hypervelocity speeds. The first Dominion warship didn't explode. It collapsed, its hull crushed as the impact sent shockwaves through its core. Another ship followed, then another. Plasma weapons sputtered against reinforced armor plating, their heat dispersion systems neutralizing the damage. Inside Dominion Command, Zyvarek's confidence shattered. His fleet, his armada, was faltering against one ship. Mercer's voice returned, steady as ever. "You have 45 seconds to comply." Panic seeped into the Dominion ranks. Their pride, their arrogance, it had blinded them. And now, They were learning a painful lesson. Zyvark's claws dug into the control panel, his mandibles twitching in frustration. The battle should have been over before it began. A single primitive warship had no place challenging the Dominion's might. Yet his fleet was in disarray, torn apart by brutal kinetic weaponry and strategic precision no lesser species should possess. Recalibrate targeting arrays. Switch to manual control, he barked, but even as the command left his mouth, he knew it wouldn't be enough. The Dominion's forces had grown dependent on their AI-assisted combat systems that were now compromised. Across the control chamber, Velsari, a high-ranking Dominion scientist, studied the battle with widening eyes. "Marshal," she murmured, "this is not the humanity we knew. They have adapted. They have studied us." Zyvark hissed, "They are still human. We are superior." Velsari's voice remained steady. "Then why are we losing?" The question hung in the air as another Dominion warship was torn apart by relentless railgun fire. The Vindicator moved like no recorded human vessel, its armor shrugging off glancing plasma hits, its engines maneuvering with an efficiency that defied everything they knew. But Zyvark was not ready to admit defeat. "Deploy the planetary disruptors. Lock them down." From Zeldar Prime's surface, ion cannons rotated into position, their colossal barrels aligning with the lone warship. A single shot from one of these weapons could disable an entire battleship. This human vessel was formidable, but not invincible. The first shot fired. A crackling surge of energy tore through space, slamming into the Vindicator with enough force to disrupt its shielding. The ship lurched, internal lights flickering. Inside, Elias Mercer tightened his grip on the command chair. The Dominion had finally started thinking like soldiers. "Too little, too late." "Status," he ordered. "Shields took a hit, but we're still in the fight," his tactical officer responded. "They've grounded us, though. That ion cannon will keep us locked in if we don't neutralize it." Elias nodded. "Deploy the strike team." Below, Zeldar Prime's surface was a sprawling cityscape of alien architecture and fortified compounds. And within those compounds, 500 human captives awaited their fate. They would not wait much longer. From the underbelly of the Vindicator, dark figures shot through the void, streaking toward the planet like falling stars. Black Talon Squad, humanity's best, clad in adaptive exosuits, equipped with technology reverse-engineered from stolen Dominion designs. They were the sharp edge of humanity's will. Their leader, Lieutenant Kara Voss, landed first, boots hitting alien metal with silent precision. Within seconds, her squad took positions, synchronizing their HUDs, mapping enemy placements in real time. The Dominion guards, expecting brute force human tactics, barely had time to react. Stealth drones flickered through the compound, jamming communications. Black Talon moved like shadows, bypassing defenses before the first alarm even sounded. Kara's voice was a whisper through comms. "On me. We move fast, we move clean." They advanced. Guards fell, taken down with silent efficiency. A locked gate stood between them and the captives, no problem. A single EMP charge, and the energy barriers collapsed. Beyond them, rows of pale, malnourished humans turned their heads in disbelief. Some too weak to stand, others staring in mute shock. Kara stepped forward, removing her helmet. "We're getting you out." A breath, then movement, then hope. But outside, Dominion reinforcements were already mobilizing. Back in orbit, Zyvark's rage burned hotter than any plasma cannon. "Ground forces, intercept those humans. Kill them if you must, but do not let them escape." Velsari's voice was tight, with something bordering on fear. "Marshal, if they reach their ship." "I know." Dominion dropships roared toward the planet's surface. Too slow. On the ground, Black Talon had already activated the evacuation sequence. High-altitude transport drones swooped in, latching onto escape pods packed with freed captives. The sky filled with streaks of fire as the pods ascended toward the Vindicator. Dominion forces arrived seconds too late, unleashing a hail of plasma fire. Some pods were hit, sent spiraling into the abyss. But most continued upward, escorted by Black Talon operatives. In the command chamber, Zyvark felt something he had never felt before. Panic. Intercept those pods. Destroy them before they dock. His fleet scrambled, but Mercer's warship moved with terrifying speed. Pulse turrets ripped through interceptors. Missile countermeasures detonated threats before they could reach their targets. Then, a final broadcast. Mercer's voice, steady. You took our people. We took them back. Learn from this. And with that, the Vindicator began its ascent. The battle was not over, but the war had already changed. The Vindicator ascended, its reinforced hull cutting through the upper atmosphere of Zeldar Prime. The mission had succeeded. The captives were on board, and Black Talon had extracted with minimal losses. But the battle was far from over. Zyvark's fury had reached its peak. The Dominion had been humiliated. His forces outmaneuvered, his ships crippled, his prisoners stolen from beneath his mandibles. The very idea of humanity as a strategic or tactical threat was unthinkable. It was unacceptable. All remaining warships converge on the human vessel. I want that ship shattered. The remnants of his armada obeyed. Frigates and cruisers repositioned, forming a blockade between the Vindicator and open space. Plasma cannons hummed as targeting systems locked in. Ion lances charged, ready to tear through the vessel's hull. On board the Vindicator, Elias Mercer remained calm. He had planned for this. The Dominion assumed humans fought like them. Waves of infantry, linear assaults, brute force naval combat. But humanity had never won battles through raw power alone. They won through adaptation. Tactical. Execute the final phase. Dominion ships fired. Energy blasts streaked through space, closing in with pinpoint accuracy. But before impact, the Vindicator did something no human warship should have been capable of. It blinked. A rippling distortion surrounded the vessel as it vanished from its projected path, reappearing several kilometers to the left. Dominion shots hit nothing but empty space. Zyvark recoiled. What? A micro-jump drive. A system the Dominion had dismissed as unstable, impossible for real-time combat. The humans had perfected it. Before the Dominion could recover, the Vindicator struck back. Railguns fired with merciless precision, ripping apart the closest frigates. The ship didn't waste time on drawn-out engagements. It hunted. Each shot was placed for maximum lethality, targeting weak points, overloading shield generators, splitting hulls apart. Zyvark watched as his blockade collapsed. They cannot escape, he roared. Focus all fire. Overload their systems. Dominion ships swarmed, desperate to close the distance. The Vindicator responded in kind. Automated turrets calculated faster than any organic pilot, targeting weak spots before the enemy could adjust. Missiles pierced shield gaps, detonating inside vital compartments. In seconds, the battlefield was a graveyard of Dominion wreckage. But the Dominion was not without its own advantages. One surviving battleship, the Varkelrin, repositioned itself above the human vessel, unleashing a point-blank graviton disruptor pulse. Inside the Vindicator, warning klaxons blared. The ship lurched, engines stuttering, power flickering as artificial gravity fluctuated wildly. The Varkelrin was deploying a gravity snare, dragging the human vessel back toward the planet's atmosphere. Zyvark's mandibles curled into a cruel sneer. You're not running anywhere, human. Mercer exhaled. Then, without hesitation, he issued a new order. Divert all reactor power to the forward drive. Break the snare by force. The Vindicator's engines roared, plasma vents overheating, structural alarms blaring as raw energy was funneled into propulsion. The ship shook violently, tearing against the Dominion's gravitational hold. The Varkelrin doubled down, amplifying the snare. The Dominion had wagered everything on this final trap. One last attempt to subdue humanity's first true warship. Mercer's voice cut through the comms. Steady. Fire the spinal railgun. The command was met with a half-second of stunned silence. Then compliance. Deep within the Vindicator, magnetic coils supercharged, drawing power directly from the reactor. A single projectile, forged from depleted uranium and laced with exotic elements, fired at near-light speed. The Valkyrian never had a chance. The impact didn't just damage the Dominion battleship, it ripped it in half. The sheer force of the shot tore through its core, shattering armor, liquefying internal decks, and sending its fractured remains plummeting into Zeldar Prime's atmosphere. The gravity snare failed instantly. Zyvark's eyes widened in disbelief as his final ace was obliterated in a single shot. The Vindicator surged forward, finally free of Dominion space. The battle was over, but the message had been sent. Silence filled the Dominion war room. The battle was lost, and the Vindicator was gone, slipping into the void beyond Zeldar Prime. Zyvark stared at the wreckage of his fleet, his mind unable to process what had just happened. One human warship had crippled an entire armada, outmaneuvered planetary defenses, and obliterated a Dominion battleship in a single strike. The unthinkable had happened. Velsari stood beside him, her voice barely above a whisper. We underestimated them. Zyvark's claws tightened against the armrest of his throne. Underestimated? No, this was worse. The Dominion had always seen humanity as an afterthought, a species that existed in their shadow, useful for labor, but never a military threat. But now, the illusion was shattered. Their technology, their tactics, Zyvark muttered, his voice carrying an edge of something he refused to name. Fear. They're not just learning from us, Velsari continued. They're surpassing us. It wasn't just the stolen human captives that had been freed. It was humanity itself, breaking free from the chains of complacency the Dominion had unknowingly placed on them. Zyvark turned, his 6 eyes narrowing. Issue a sector-wide directive. All Dominion fleets are to treat human vessels as high-priority threats. No more tolerance. No more negotiations. Velsari hesitated. If we escalate this, it has already escalated, Zyvark snapped. They have made their declaration. Now we answer. He turned back to the display, watching as the last of the battle's debris burned in the planet's atmosphere. Humanity had chosen war. Then war they would have. Aboard the Vindicator, the bridge was silent. The battle was won, but the consequences had only begun to unfold. The crew moved efficiently, tending to wounded civilians, recalibrating systems, and assessing damages. Despite everything, the ship had survived. They had survived. Elias Mercer stood at the command console, staring out at the endless void. His ship was bruised, his people exhausted, but the mission had succeeded. The Dominion had taken their people, and they had taken them back. No treaties, no begging for diplomacy. A voice came through the comms, Lieutenant Caravas, her tone steady despite the exhaustion. All escape pods accounted for. We lost some, but most made it. Mercer exhaled. Losses. No victory came without them. They're asking what happens next, Voss added. Mercer looked at the screen, at the empty space ahead of them. The Dominion would not let this stand. Humanity had been seen as weak, divided, disorganized. That perception was dead now. The Dominion would retaliate. They would come harder. Good. We prepare, Mercer said simply. Humanity had made its stand. There was no turning back now. And deep in the cold void of space, war was coming.